Good evening to everyone. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu asrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Setinggi terima kasih ya kepada Mira Talib. Alhamdulillah, syukur kehadrat Allah dan mohon terus agar kita selamat ya bersama keluarga dan negara terpelihara dari berterusan wabak COVID-19 agar ada penyembuhnya dari Maha Esa dengan segera.
Amin.
Saya senang sekali ya bisa ngobrol bersama Sri Kandi dan perkasa-perkasa pendukung keusahawanan di jagat milenial ini dalam alam maya warung secawan kopi bersama saya. Indonesia serta ASEAN bisa semakin dinamis dan maju jaya insya-Allah. Amin ya.
Amin, amin.
Yuk, dalam masa singkat sekitar 35 minit ataupun 40 minit ini ya, saya bisa bagikan presentasi ini kepada dua bahagian. Yang akan diceritakan tentang niaga halal di rantau kita ASEAN, itu bahagian pertama. Bahagian kedua tentang kisah saya yang hampir 20 tahun melapangkan masa dalam industri halal dari seorang penggemar makanan halal menjadi advokatis halal, dijadikan juga saya sebagai pegawai pensijilan halal daripada Majlis Ugama Islam Singapura dan terus jadi konsultan halal yang berpangkalan di Singapura menjelajah dunia pensijilan halal. Kembang sayap lagi, meneroka pelbagai bidang dalam supply chain halal. Jadi driver penghantar makanan, pelayan tamu, jaga ayam, tengok lembu korban maupun mengetuai syarikat pemprosesan makanan halal yang bernilai jutaan dolar di Singapura. Ini semua amat penting kerana satu ayat, footprint. Ya, footprint untuk menguasai perjalanan supply chain halal. Ia tidak mudah, makan masa, banyak perit jerih tapi ia amat perlu. Dan saya akan menceritakan dalam bahagian kedua bagaimana saya membina niaga halal dengan pengalaman footprint ini untuk tembusi pasaran halal di ASEAN. Now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me to share on my startup journey, and I will be addressing on growing halal business in ASEAN. Opportunities that should evolve within our very own ASEAN business ecosystem despite the current challenges in fighting COVID-19. So I believe with combined resources, we have that determination. ASEAN are united. By helping one another through this, we will prevail and emerge stronger. We plan the ASEAN future to remain with us. This will be my overview presentation for the next 40 minutes in this webinar. In short, I wish to describe the growing halal business in ASEAN remains a huge business for the fact it has a growing importance during this crisis and food supply chain becomes more critical for many ASEAN countries and global community too. Can I have the next slide, please? Next slide, yeah. Now let's talk about the halal industry. Today, as we are facing with new challenges of COVID-19, we have to look into new ways and innovation to ensure the sustainability and scalability for halal industry will remain with us. We are the custodian to uphold this global community responsibility together. Now, let's look before the COVID-19. The halal industry remains booming. According to the 2017 to 2018 Global Islamic Economy report by Thomson Reuters in collaboration with Dinar Standard, globally, Muslim consumers spend about $1.2 trillion on food and beverage in 2016. And by 2022, this figure is expected to reach $1.9 trillion. According to the report, Muslim countries with the highest spend on food and beverage in 2016 were Indonesia, with an estimate of $169.7 billion. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the effects of COVID-19 are hitting ASEAN economies at a time when other risk factors such as a global growth slowdown were already rising. Now, within the ASEAN region itself, we know that supply chain disruptions, the impact on labor supply and uncertainty is also driving negative sentiment. All of these affect trade, investment and output, which affects growth, but with different timeline. But then again, I'm hoping the ASEAN halal industry will remain strong despite these challenges. Next slide, please. Look at this potential of the halal market, ladies and gentlemen. The global production versus the consumption of halal products that are taken from the source of Tanjung Manis 2011 Investors Guide. And the global halal potential growth clusters, we have a different part of the clusters. In light of the current situation, what should we do in time of this crisis affecting the global food supply chain? I wish to quote the President Dewan Perdagangan ASEAN, Datuk Muhammad Izzat Emir, in his conversation with Economic Journal that was published in 2019. I met him last year in November 2019 and presented this journal to me. He was asked in Malay, mampukah industri halal berkembang maju dalam pasaran ASEAN dan apakah kaedah yang terbaik untuk kekal berjaya dalam perdagangan di rantau ASEAN? Now, I want you to listen to his reply. There are few good tips in Malay. I'm going to read to you. And he says that industri halal mampu berkembang luas dalam pasaran ASEAN kerana kebanyakan usahawan di negara anggota ASEAN sudah mula menceburi bidang pengeluaran produk makanan halal. He says that pergilah ke serata negara ASEAN, kemudian buat kajian. Buat kajian terhadap produk yang menjadi keperluan mereka dalam kehidupan seharian. Selepas itu pulang ke tanah air, ciptalah peluang. You need to innovate the opportunity. Serta terokalah sektor perniagaan bagi pengeluaran produk dan perkhidmatan yang menjadi keperluan serta permintaan dalam kalangan pengguna, baik pun masyarakat, pemain industri dan para usahawan di rantau ASEAN. This to me was indeed a very much wise advice. Can we have the next slide? The best logical way to start this is to do it within our own territory. That is critical for our survival in an efficient way. To do this, it is by enhancing our trust, relationship, and to learn in order to lead. Now look at this particular screen. The global halal market is about 25% of world population are Muslim, and that's our good storytelling to begin with. A report by the International Market Analysis Research and Consulting IMARC group entitled Halal Food Market Global Industry Trend, Share, Size, Growth Opportunity and Forecast of 2018 and 2023 revealed that the global halal food market reached a value of $1.4 trillion in 2017. The report projected that market value to reach $2.6 trillion by 2023, exhibiting a compound annual growth rate of more than 11% during the period between 2018 to 2023. Look at the key halal markets. Indonesia is there, Malaysia is there, that represents ASEAN, the Middle East, and the halal is not only per se, the opportunity lies within the halal market of the Muslim community, but the non-Muslim countries as well is really a very emerging market for all of us. Can I have the next slide, please? The ASEAN initiative. Let's look at Malaysia. International Halal Hub. A strong credential as Islamic country, they really propagate the truly ASEAN vision. Malaysia's halal market was valued at $1.9 billion in 2013. A crucial contributor to the country's economic growth, the halal industry is projected to contribute up to 5.8% of the nation's gross domestic product (GDP) by 2020. up from 2% in 2013, and I believe they will achieve the target despite the onset of COVID-19. Indonesia, over 88% of Indonesia's population is Muslim, and the country is well positioned to be a hub for halal products in Southeast Asia. If you look at your countries with the world's largest Muslim population is, unsurprisingly, a huge halal product market estimated at $10 billion annually in 2013 and seeing annual growth of 7 to about 10%. Singapore is really into the innovation, research and development center. Singapore as a kind of a vital food hub. We really go into the Singapore tasty brand. Philippines, Brunei Darussalam, and interestingly, to look at Thailand, they really developed the kitchen of the world with a kind of a long-term plan to penetrate global halal food market. Now, Thailand has become the world's 5th largest halal food producer. It has 5.6% share of the global halal food market, valued at about $5 billion annually. The Thai government continued effort to strengthen the halal industry resulted in the establishment of the Halal Standard Institute of Thailand in 2003 to ensure proper development and certification for national halal food. These standards comply with Islamic law as well as international food quality standard. Can we have the next slide, please? I'm going to leave this particular screen for your reading regarding about the current situation as well as the current limitation. What I'm going to actually discuss in this particular slide, is about my personal observation for the main concern and challenges for halal businesses is actually the absence of a unified certification system, which presents a kind of a bottlenecks for halal businesses and ultimately impedes a lot of the opportunity between cross-border halal trade. Now, one, a lack of unification of halal certification system poses challenges for companies operating in the halal space. Due to the lack of this recognition between halal certification bodies, companies that export to different markets would need to gain and maintain multiple halal certification to fulfill the requirements of the certification body in each exporting market. If you look at the international market also, will benefit from the halal market as there is almost always a Muslim community that has a need for halal products in the country. In many local communities, it is though that not all halal logos are legitimate, so having well-known and trusted halal certification can help in the long run for businesses. So these are the few points that I wish to really share my personal observation with regard to the current situation as well as the current limitation that we need to address to be the champion within ASEAN in this halal ecosystem. Can we have the next slide, please? Now, the next personal observation to me, when we look at about the ASEAN and the opportunities for building up this halal ecosystem, so I just like to present two parts of the quote that I think is really the nut of the crux, or rather the main emphasis that need to be really worked among us within the Nusantara is this. So the biggest strength of mankind lies in unwavering unity. This exact sentiment is put forth by some of the greatest leaders, in fact, or person who impacted the world in some way. I quote Helen Keller, and this is something that, I just want to put forth to all of us, into this particular webinar, that alone we can do so little, but rather together we can do so much. Now, we should imitate the ways of Prophet Muhammad SAW in fostering unity and harmony, in which I believe unity in his blessing is our greatest strength to success. So opportunities are huge within ASEAN, and we must come together to set the trend and lead the way for halal ecosystem. If you really look from the part of what I've already recommend over here, the opportunity for ASEAN collaboration to be world leader in halal branding. We need the kind of halal branding and create a strong presence of quality halal brand in ASEAN. Indonesia, for that matter, in ASEAN can be a world leader in the trade of halal goods and services, as trade is likely to be the stronger component than production. What we should do is to also look at ways to establish a collaborative halal e-procurement within ASEAN to achieve a significant savings and quality offering. I think it's also important that, to establish a halal reference center and knowledge center among ASEAN countries. We should also be able to develop a pool of investment project and potential investors for strategic projects within ASEAN. And I think the last two is a very important element that we need to establish together the world-class training facilities and modules for halal competence within ASEAN. And last but not least, a collaboration between industry, the scholars, as well as scientists to develop the halal standard to a world-class, benefiting our ASEAN ecosystem. Can we have the next slide, please? What about the potential threat to do this halal business? I put here three main issues in halal products, which we must first be strong, not only by advocating this, but we must be business players within the halal industry. Let's focus in these three main areas: the raw materials, the manufacturing processing, and the strong governance for halal authentication. No. Based on my observation, we are supreme in governing halal authentication as service provider, but we are not a major contributor nor having ownership in both raw materials as well as manufacturing processing. It is improved, but we need to do more. We can be very successful in our own way if we own such supply chain for halal, from raw materials, knowledge for processing of manufacturing, as well as protecting the governance for halal. I quote Professor Irwandi Jaswir at the Halal Masterclass that was run together with myself with the Singapore Institute of Management last year on 23rd April in Singapore. And he says this is very interesting, coming from the halal professors from Indonesia, Irwandi Jaswir himself. And he says that kata kunci untuk tawan industri halal adalah berdaya inovatif. We need a lot of the innovation within us. We need to really put apa kelainan yang kita perlu ada supaya kita boleh masuk ke pasaran antarabangsa yang sedemikian besar adalah tiga kunci: inovatif, idea dan kreativiti. Itu kena ada bersama untuk mendapatkan pasaran luar biasa dari luar negara yang sangat besar. This is coming from Professor Irwandi Jaswir. Can we have the next slide, please? Next slide, please. Potential critical areas from raw materials, slaughtering, processing operation, packaging, ingredients and additive, GMO, GMF, safety and quality aspect. Now, halal is no longer just a purely religious issue, right? It has become a global symbol for quality assurance and a lifestyle choice, and it's a new market force that should not be overlooked. I quote from Saudi Gazette, April 6, 2018, by Professor Irwandi Jaswir, and he's the winner to the prestigious King Faisal Award for his service to Islam and a prominent halal scientist from Indonesia. Jaswir said around 90% of gelatin available in world market is non-halal, of which about 60% comes from porcine. And he says that he worked closely with King Saud University in Riyadh earlier in connection with two research projects. One was pertaining to production of halal gelatin from camel hide and bones, and the SR2 million project was completed in 2017. Now he says the second was about non-halal contamination in food, especially snacks for children that are imported by the kingdom. Malaysia imports a lot of food ingredients where the issue of halal is very critical. Now we got to ask ourselves, is Indonesia facing the same set of a situation? Can we have the next slide, please? And ladies and gentlemen, I think in the part of halal, we ought to really uplift ourselves to the understanding in applying halal as a kind of holistic concept of halal and toyiban. Holistic concept of halal and toyiban, based on these two definitions, ladies and gentlemen, it may be concluded that halal represents the fulfillment of the Sharia requirements, leading to the permissibility of an object or action, while halal and toyiban cover a more holistic approach. its concept is seen as a more comprehensive method that seeks to achieve international standard compliance, making it universally acceptable. Now, for instance, nutritious products that contain halal ingredients and at the same time do not contain any substance that could endanger human health and life may be certified as halalan thayyiban. In short, it is pure, it is halal, and it's safe for consumption. So this is what it meant, the holistic concept of halalan thayyiban. Can we have the next slide, please? Halal, in this concept of the halalan thayyiban, halal is defined as things or action which are permitted or lawful in Islam. It conveys basic meaning and defines the standards of acceptability in accordance to Sharia requirement. This is something that I stressed before, and I keep repeating this. And halalan thayyiban, on the other hand, is defined as assurance and guarantee that both aspects of halalan and thayyiban integrated into holistic and balanced requirement that fulfill the condition, situation, and application that need. So this is a much more simplified version of the whole entire process from the source of origin right to the consumer's end. So this is what it says about. Can we have the next slide, please? Malaysia is a good example here for us to learn from on their building for capacity of halal knowledge, manpower capability, and for standard of governance to uphold the global responsibility in this area. Perhaps we should come together and strengthen this foundation within ASEAN. The manual procedure for Malaysia Halal Certification 2014, which issued by the Department of Islamic Development, JAKIM, and 13 other standards on halal issued by the Department of Standards Malaysia, DOSM, are all focused on halal alone. But they realize it might be due to the fact that Malaysia's current halal certification scheme at that time does not include halalan thayyiban. But today, there are 3 areas that require compliance with halalan thayyiban standard, which include transportation of goods, cargo chain activities, warehousing, and other related activities such as the retailing. And what signifies this? It defines that halal as the new source of economic growth. So these are the kind of potential that if we really master and really fully understand regarding about how to really tap on all this to really monetize and at the same time, we uphold the community responsibility for the whole entire community. Can we have the next slide, please? Ladies and gentlemen, another important area for us to keep our mind on par is the advancement for halal food security and forensic laboratory management. Now, let's ask ourselves, how can we do this? Now, I think increase on the awareness and use for science application here and making sure that food that we consume is not only halal, but it is safe for us, our family, and everyone else. The importance of establishing laboratories and using analytical techniques of validating authenticity in halal food production for ensuring food safety and protecting consumers from fraud and deception is necessary. And not only that, in most of the country that we visited, right, for the halal certification, you need not only you need to have a company that has been halal certified. It's also required to have a global food safety certification. If you're familiar with FSSC 22000, some even with HACCP 22000, the BRC, IFS, SQF. So this is the way that the industries are actually moving towards ensuring the food safety as well as the food security now and the future. Next slide, please. With the advancement of science and technology, food processing has become more complex, and foods may contain ingredients and additives from questionable sources. With efficient transportation, more new products are introduced onto the shelf in the market across the world, and somehow, somewhere, foods can be lost in the food chain or not traceable at all. Technology advances mean that many consumers expect more transparency today in the food production process. They want reassurance about humane practices, and many consumers are now following their food from farm to fork. Since halal food require rigorous production standard, consumers today are beginning to see halal food product as healthy, organic, ethical, and friendly. Muslim consumers, for their part, want to maintain the halal lifestyle, and they tend to be educated about food companies that follow halal standards, as well as satisfying body stamps of approval is important for the consumer. Can we have the next slide, please? I just put this particular slide, and this is actually as I'm also doing the part of the business for the cooking oil. So you have a corn oil, peanut oil, palm oil, coconut oil, and sesame oil. But what about in terms of the lard oil, right? So what I'm about to say, you know, if I'm to ask Muslim hawkers on their know-how for sertu when it comes to cross-contamination, right? I believe that, we will be getting various responses to a point, I'm not sure. More so, if you to ask them, do you know the benefit of such a technology, electronic nose or e-nose technology in halal verification? This is what I meant by the vapor print that I showed in this part of a slide. Now, many would leave those to the authority because it's their job. Now, the point, ladies and gentlemen, that I wish to raise this is community should be well informed to strengthen our halal ecosystem by first extending the right knowledge and know-how and create that as a learning to advance a well-informed community for this social responsibility to halal. So Alhamdulillah, can we have the next slide, please? Now, Alhamdulillah, itu sebenarnya bahagian yang pertama. I'm just giving the kind of a backdrop with regard to the business in halal and the backdrop that what we need to know regarding about halalan thayyiban in the aspect of this halal ecosystem. Nah, kita akan melangkah kepada bahagian kedua. It is about my next presentation is about my journey in halal, right? It's about sharing, learning together, pulling our resources together, and we aspire to be successful together. I'd just like to share regarding about my this startup journey. It's never easy to be a startup. While to be successful also, it has to begin with the right knowledge, the right business logic, and the right team. This is my journey, leading and taking action now to work on my passion and for what I enjoyed the most. May the barakah within us and all from this sharing. Can I have the next slide, please? I started by acquiring those real-life experiences and the knowledge of halal in what I do and transfer knowledge for a greater scale. I left my study, otherwise I will be as early as my other friends to be in university, but great hardship pulled me down. Alhamdulillah, today, I make a comeback. I'm partnering Singapore Institute of Management to co-develop manpower capabilities for halal industry so that more people can benefit from the work of halal businesses, which I will be sharing with you soon. Now, ladies and gentlemen, based on my real life struggle to be within and inspire a holistic halal ecosystem, I believe there is tremendous opportunity for knowledge creation and skills development in the areas of food safety, halal auditing, product authentication, sales process automation, and supply chain management. We need to train more halal managers and create employment opportunities to build further the halal ecosystem within ASEAN. And I hope, as I indicated in my earlier slide, that Singapore will be able to work with other international halal certification bodies by leveraging its resources in terms of talent development, international market branding, research and development on the R&D, international linkages, and our reputation of being a small country, Singapore, with those resources that I have mentioned. Now, I ask myself, how can I do this? I have to be successful as an entrepreneur, and I have to be different in what we do. So can I have the next slide, please? So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you will bear with me in about 15 minutes as I'm going to walk you through regarding about the business case study of my journey setting up HAEBARA. In 2016, I was approached to manage this exclusive chicken poultry breed and halal from an Indonesian halal scientist who is our board member now. And he led me to South Korean group. It was a precious opportunity, but I know it's going to be volatile and a game changer, while it will be a difficult business to do. What drives me was the essence of halalan thayyiban mubarakan. And this poultry breeding knowledge, which will only be privy within a small group that will reinforce halal for the global market. It took me 3 years to find various learning curves and to understand the poultry supply chain within ASEAN before I concluded my findings in early 2019 and set up an investment holding entity in Singapore with South Korean partner in July 2019. As a founder, it gives me great pleasure to present our business case study with you on how we transfer this halal knowledge to a working poultry breeding business model and starting in ASEAN. Can I have the next slide, please? Let me introduce you what is HAEBARA. HAEBARA is a Korean language and it means just do it. HAEBARA Singapore Private Limited is an Industry 4.0 poultry breeding technology company focusing on non-GMO poultry breeds without antibiotic, no vaccination, while preserving its exceptional nutritional benefits to its amazing taste. HAEBARA chicken with no vaccination or antibiotics, a possibility was discovered that raw ingredient level halal certification may be conducted for the first time, followed by the needs to have feed and agricultural crops to be halal certified as well. Next slide, please. Now, if you ask, why is chicken? These days, everyone is talking about autonomous driving and internet cybersecurity. But why are we focusing on poultry farming that's old and very classic? In our economic and business number, it constitutes to 3 main core. In business, it's very important to have that accessibility. We have to also look at the profitability of the business and, of course, the reliability of this business. Chicken only needs about 6 weeks to grow as compared to the other form of animal. And we know that the demand for chicken meat and egg inside outside of ASEAN countries are very high due to insufficient local production. The chicken production rate is behind the speed of global population growth, creating a huge food shortage in Asia. Next slide, please. Many notice that the global food crisis is just around the corner. And now we are already in COVID-19 as we are discussing this topic for greater supply chain awareness, and it's already impacting crises like COVID-19. We are already living in such an advanced world with population growth so fast that in about 2 to 3 years, CNN, FAO, Bloomberg, distinguished universities forecast that food shortage is inevitable. So these are opportunities that we should be looking, towards taking the advantage, embracing this halal ecosystem within ASEAN. Can we have the next slide, please? Now, HAEBARA. So and how are we different from existing players in the global market? Number one, we own our breeds of chicken. Who else does? European and American companies like Evergen, Hendrick Genetics, and Cobb Vantress, who's been dominating the global chicken market with 95% of market penetration since the First World War in 1918. I hope that this is not something new, but for those people who are not familiar, so these are basically the breeder coming from the origin of USA as well as Europe, and in Asia, we are only having the breed distributor. So within ASEAN, there's only distributors of this product by practicing their own technique to make it more affordable to the ASEAN economy. Even the giant food processor companies don't have their own breed, so they have to rely on the breeders for their output. Can we have the next slide, please? How is HAEBARA different from other breeders? Others also have non-GMO chickens too like us, and some are now exercising no use of antibiotics to communicate with the end consumers. But they could not take off their oxygen mask off from the use of chemical vaccination. All HAEBARA chickens are non-GMO and grow with no antibiotics and no vaccination while keeping competitive mortality rate. This is the reason why our chicken has a nickname too, the halal chicken. We maximize the advantages of Internet of Things, IoT, artificial intelligence, AI, and blockchain technologies to disrupt, hopefully, the $12 billion poultry industry in ASEAN, starting from Myanmar and Malaysia consecutively. Indonesia will be our next targeted market with our legal entity already established in Indonesia in Bangka Belitung. The aim, ladies and gentlemen, for our greater stability in ASEAN, for our business, as well as the community responsibility for Ummah. Next slide, please. This slide describes the standard feed formula we go by, but it's been modified to adapt local agricultural conditions so we can do 100% local manufacturing in each country. For the one in right, we have been working with local universities in Muslim majority countries to make sure what are the areas of modification required to make our feeds also halal certified in accordance with the local halal authorities, because our chicken itself is already halal since the moment they hatch out of the eggs. Next slide, please. We are also empowering our poultry breeding technology through IoT, AI, and blockchain. Chicken breeds in ASEAN countries today are, if not all, mostly genetically modified organisms, because the cost of non-GMO chickens are typically about 2 to 3 times more expensive. But because we own our breeds, we do have the rights to put affordable price tags to the chicken we supply. And we know what the best fit for them and breed them in perfect harmony. Next slide, please. Our ultimate aim is to have our chickens to be recognized as halal chicken. Slaughtering method defines halal certified chicken, but we even start from the feed practice of non-GMO, starting from the feed consumed by our HAEBARA chicken. You can look at the part of the tree, the low mortality, the high profit, as well as the best infrastructure through this slide. But in order to make our market entry easier, we decided to give Myanmar a start so we can at least go through one cycle of non-halal certified chicken production and optimize it into the halal compliance before going into Muslim majority countries like Indonesia as well as Malaysia, because it will take some time to comply with different halal regulation in different countries. Next slide, please. Now, this slide is the FAO STAT, that stands for Food and Agriculture Organization Corporate Statistical Database, based on ASEAN plus chicken production in 2017 in millions. When we spoke with government officials in most countries in 2019, there were nearly about 30% of increase to the number we are seeing right now. As you can see, we have our HAEBARA flags in most of the countries that accounts for 91% of 3.8 billion ASEAN chicken volume. The second largest is Myanmar, followed by the number one Indonesia, almost about 7 times higher production. On part of a business sustainability, let me share with you a few key advantages of HAEBARA. One, there is no need to worry about livestock import quota, thus no chicken meat or egg shortage or price fluctuation. Number two, non-GMO chicken are most welcome in the global export market. Let's go into the next slide, please. Now look at the size of the market at 11.5 billion US dollar chicken market, approximately in our calculation, which I'm taking at the assumption of $3 US per chicken. we see that the growing numbers of chicken are fully scalable despite the initial amount of our investment. The yields to stunning profit levels thanks to the strong immune system of our chicken without chemical injection, not a single drop of antibiotics. There are 10 countries under ASEAN, different culture, government practices, ethical background, yet one thing in common, a shortage of chicken product. When it comes to developing countries learning to consume protein meat, it usually starts with chicken. Then it moves to other animals such as cow for the reason I just mentioned in the previous slide. Can we have the next slide, please? Now, HAEBARA project also cover many United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, leading to extensive support from international organizations. The opportunities to have impact in more sustainable development goals in more countries in Asia, ASEAN. For instance, good quality organic fertilizers from animal waste provide an opportunity for the agricultural sector to reduce their reliance on chemical fertilizer, which improves the soil fertility and sustainability. So proper utilization of HAEBARA chicken manures can generate millions of employment opportunities in rural areas as well. It can protect soil from chemicals and fertilizers and improve soil fertility. Next slide, please. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is our model for poultry breeding solution to manage chicken farm via IoT by monitoring temperature, humidity, illuminance, water, air, noise. So the breeding of chicken is under control with the application of various sensors. It is equipped with European standard average system, and this UFO-alike breeding center is capable to house 35,000 broilers within a complete cycle. What's interesting about our rearing chicken technology, HAEBARA can grow 600 chickens into 2 million chickens within 18 months. This is only possible because HAEBARA owns breed from pure line, purebred, GGPS, the great grandparent stock, GPS, the grandparent stock, PS, the parent stock, and CC, the commercial chicken that we eat in the commercial world. So this is an illustration to you for the full cycle of complete hierarchy of chicken family that we own. Next slide, please. I'm going to have only about 2 to 3 more slides, so be patient, ladies and gentlemen. This is talking about a vertical integration of chicken business. Now, since we own our breeds, we know what's the best fit for our breed also. And because we care about animal welfare too, we build chicken house that they love to stay cool and well ventilated under the hot weather. In the stage of brooding, the IoT system fully exploits the advantages of automatic control in terms of temperature, light, the density, water, and deworming feeding, reducing labor costs and eliminating artificial errors. So we have the breeding centers on the far left. It will go into the breeder house, the broiler house, and the layer house to grow or rather to hatch the eggs. You know, the commercial eggs. You know that is in the shelf of the various supermarket. So thanks to our South Korean construction team and the poultry experts to really develop this HAEBARA vertical integration. Can we have the next slide, please? Now, we also dedicate ourselves to serve over 40% of Muslim population in ASEAN. That has always been our target. We want to make sure that we will be able to supply for the consumption of our Muslim and even the non-Muslim, you know, without the kind of a chemical injection, by providing DNA traceable halal compliant food that they can trust. So HAEBARA will implement a full-on traceability secured by blockchain for HAEBARA's farm operation from crop, feed, poultry, egg in ASEAN region and beyond. HAEBARA track and trace data will encrypted, mapped onto and secured on the OneAgrix network operating system, which is powered by Origin Trade blockchain protocol. So they are our technology partner. Can we have the next slide, please? As I mentioned over to you that the HAEBARA Singapore's objective is to create a sustainable job, you know, with the millions of chicken reared in developing areas within ASEAN, starting in Myanmar as well as Malaysia. to be followed by the Indonesia by working closely with local agricultural sectors to provide opportunities for people to learn from, and they will be able to manage. So in this regard, we are partnering with Singapore Institute of Management SIM to co-develop this curriculum and in various discussions with other universities in ASEAN as well as in South Korea. Can we have the second last slide, please? So ladies and gentlemen, there are 4 key thrusts. We create employment. We know that the halal markets will await us in the ASEAN, the rise of the blockchain technology. In conclusion, the opportunity for doing business remains ever growing for halal sector in ASEAN with huge business potential for us. My take is one ASEAN, one team for greater halal economy. HAEBARA Smart Poultry Farming Solution, empowered by IoT, AI, and blockchain technology, set a very clear illustration that if there's a will, there's a way for one to be trendsetter and leading his way with their passion. ASEAN is one of most productive agriculture basket in the world. That we know in 2012, the region produced about 129 million tons of rice, as well as about 40 million tons of corn. So these are actually going to be readily available for our feeds production within ASEAN. Despite being leading producers of staple crops and food, most ASEAN countries are yet to reach their production boundaries, and investors leveraging on the region's balanced climate, fertile land, and mix of lowland and upland, forests, you name it, to find opportunities not just in crop and livestock production, but also in managing food supply chain, agriculture infrastructure, and safety and agribusiness. Now, my take is, if we need to be smart farmer for the future of our halal economy in ASEAN, let's reset and be ready to take up this opportunity amidst the growing food safety and security concern to be good business entry point during this COVID-19, which is unprecedented globally, while halal standard and Sharia compliant set a clear advantage for us to rise in the next chapter for the economy in ASEAN. And my last slide, please. So ladies and gentlemen, I end my presentation with the spirit of one ASEAN, one team. May we be united, economically driven, re-energize ourselves despite our current challenges with COVID-19. In Allah, let's thank our organizer and your participation. May He provide blessing and barakah in this sharing. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Back to you, Mira Khalid. Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zuraimi. It was an eye-opening for me, especially for this halal business. We will opening our question and answer session. Those who have question may write it in the column chat, and then or you just can get it assigned for me, and then I will unmute your mic so you can get asked to ask Mrs. Zuraimi directly. Or probably for my question first, while we wait for others to type the question, Mr. Zuraimi.
Sure, Mira.
Yeah. You were saying about the technology you use in your HAEBARA international, especially with the IoT, AI, and blockchain. What the technology or innovation that you plan for the future other than these 3 parts of technology? Because as we know, my experience before when I live in Malaysia, there are one of the crises like Cadbury Malaysia. They certificated in halal, but later on they found there is a pork DNA as well. And then the other part of that is the chemical injection they use on the chicken itself. So is there another technology that you plan for HAEBARA or innovation in this industry?
When Mira, when we mentioned about the part of our this cooperation as well with the what the Greeks having the DNA traceability, right? We really encrypt from end to end, meaning to say that, you know, right from the birth of the breed itself, right to the end consumer. So for what we know as of a current stand, that the point of halal is always look at the point of slaughtering, right? But based on our this achievement, I would say in terms of this breed formula, we will now be able to actually have this complete DNA traceability right from the breed to the end of the consumer. So this is my response. Over to you, Mira. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And there's one audience that wants to talk directly. Yeah. Halo, Assalamualaikum, Brother Yusuf.
Ya, Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ya, can I? Oh, okay. Assalamualaikum, Mr. Zuraimi.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi Bapak Yusuf ya.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I
Yes, sir.
really,
Yeah.
I really appreciate about your presentation. I totally interest talk about chicken. Yeah. Nah, but based on my opinion, Indonesia for halal industry, especially for chicken, is rare because many like chicken processing still use traditional process.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I want to know. Wait. Okay. Has your organization discussed with WTO regarding halal certification here? Because as we know, WTO is declared all taxes or all taxes is zero. For example, Indonesia have agreement with Brazil for trading chicken, but you know Brazil is mostly their people non-Muslim, so I'm personally not sure about their product is halal. So what your opinion about that?
Well, Bapak Yusuf, in terms of the current situasi ya Bapak, dari sudut pemakanan ayam-ayam yang ada ya, tidak akan saya katakan because basically I was actually doing the halal integrity management as well for the slaughterhouse, dan kita tahu tentang the supply chain. Thus far at this current moment is basically no issue or no problem regarding about having the whatever the chicken that we have. But as a part of the alternative for chicken that we come up with this HAEBARA, the only thing is that number one, it is a non-GMO that we breed right from our breed. This is one. Second, we don't actually we don't use the chemical injection for this, and our prototype in one of the ASEAN countries proven this, and Alhamdulillah we are already there, and we are moving towards the commercialization of what we believe in this HAEBARA chicken. So yes, we are also working with the international organization, and this is the first baby step that we put up. As I mentioned over to you, the passion that I want to really drive this is for the that halalan thayyiban mubarakan, that we want to see the whole entire holistic approach from end to end, that will be able to be successful in this part of the venture, Bapak. Yeah.
Okay. But talk to ASEAN countries, how we protect like import from Brazilian chicken or other country, which is we don't know their how how they chicken process. So
Yeah.
as ASEAN, how
For me, Bapak Yusof.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, Bapak Yusof, the whole part of the idea, we wouldn't want to talk regarding about the current supply chain. What we want to actually adopt is to make our own ASEAN. If you look at Indonesia, let's say that if we're going to start with a Bangka Belitung, by having this breed in Bangka Belitung, we will be able to also emulate the whole entire process. That means we're talking about from having the breeding center. We're going to have and teach the local farmers on how to do this breeder house. Then going into the broiler, as well as how to really do up the kind of a layer house. So we want the kind of a whole entire system and really empower the local farmers so that within Indonesia in the near future it would be self-sustainable. That's the whole idea. And I think farming is something that very interesting, Bapak Yusof. I mean, me coming from Singapore, we don't even have enough space doing the part of this farming and coming myself as well. So when I was being given this part of the responsibility, I really thankful to Allah. Only then I understand the whole entire mechanism of doing this farming for poultry. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. The last question, may I get your proposal, HAEBARA? I think I will check your proposal, and I interest to about AI and then about HAEBARA, like a proposal or your company profile.
Sure, Bapak Yusof. I'll be more than happy. I mean, this is where we have to thank AMSI. Such kind of a platform. We share and we learn from one another. If there's a opportunity that we will be able to do something together, I really look forward, to read, because at the end of the day, we are already in Indonesia, PT HAEBARA Indonesia International. We are based in the Bangka Belitung, and we really want to actually work with the rest of other states as well within Indonesia.
Okay.
Thank you, Bapak.
Sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Yusuf. Kemudian second question from Eko.
Hello.
Assalamualaikum, Pak Eko.
Thank you, Bu Mira.
Yeah.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam, Eko. Apa kabar, Eko?
Alhamdulillah. So far, so fine.
Eko dari mana, Eko?
Thank
dari
you.
mana? Jakarta, Surabaya.
Jakarta.
Silakan, Eko.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I have two questions because I'm not in the industry, and this is very insightful for me. By seeing that your presentation about the ASEAN market for the food, especially Pak, halalan food.
Yeah.
What do the export-import regulation regarding these foods? Because as we know that regulation in export and import is usually tight for medical and foods, especially in Indonesia, Pak. How we can solve this problem if we have, for example, cooperation within the Asian collaboration to provide halalan foods? That is the first. And then from experience,
I can't hear you, Eko. I can't hear you.
Sorry.
I can't hear you, Eko. Yeah.
What about now, Pak? Can you
hear? Now I can hear you. Yeah. Carry on. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you, Eko. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. May I repeat my first question is what is your experience or opinion regarding to export-import regulation regarding to foods? Because as we know that if we collaborate to provide halalan foods within ASEAN market, the export-import regulation is I think more tighter in Indonesia, yeah, because check in custom sometimes they need to check what kind of foods or something, and then they need to have the license or something. That is the first part. And the second is,
Yeah, sure.
how about your experience to face like Indonesia? We have some region that the taste of the foods may be different from one region to other regions. So
That's
we
right.
need, yes. So we need, I think, what is, yeah, multiple product or with different taste. But I need to know from your insight, what will we do to face this condition?
Sure.
I think that's a question. Thank you.
Thank you for the two questions, Echo. Number one, I would like to go straight to your second question, yeah, regarding
Yeah.
about the different taste. We need to really go into R&D. R&D is something that is, to me, is very important. I'll give you an example. While I was doing a halal dim sum factory, when I have the offer, to really open up a factory of halal dim sum from Singapore, and they wanted to actually get the OEM, the contract manufacturing for Japan. They're having the Olympic 2020, right? We'll be talking about a couple years back. What happened is that when they want to have our this halal dim sum, they would want to have the Middle Eastern kind of taste, right? Because our halal dim sum is really the local ASEAN taste, and Eko, it really need a lot of tweaking, a lot of the R&D. You're talking about really to find a lot of those raw materials that I mentioned over to you, and we need to actually also be equipped regarding about the manufacturing or processing, because every part of the process that you do and you really make the kind of tweak will change the whole entire taste to the food itself. So I fully agree with you. And my second aspect that, right now I'm having also a kind of a point of consideration. While I'm doing this HAEBARA chicken, right? This is something that, the Myanmar will love our this HAEBARA chicken because it's already there. But when I look at the part of the continent within the Indonesia, take a look at the nasi padang, right? Nasi padang will really use the kind of ayam kecil, yeah, the kind of ayam kampung in that essence. So today I really have this in mind to say that, but I know that my this HAEBARA chicken will be very healthy, right? But I need to do a lot of the R&D to make sure that it will not jeopardize to the current taste of the local native in Indonesia. So that's going to be my response. The first question with regard to the import export, I think I would like to leave beyond just import export. I think I would want to encourage you, Echo, to really look at the free trade agreement. If you really look at the free trade agreement within ASEAN, I think that it would be the kind of the answers to all your queries. And I believe that within the free trade agreement, there would be a component regarding about the cooperation of the halal. As I know that Indonesia, I know Professor Sukoso, who is a leading BJJP and MUI. And I think they are all indeed would be really forthcoming. The only thing is that maybe you would be able to work with AMSI, right, as a kind of coordination of the platform, and try to organize, or maybe my suggestion is also try to invite panels like Professor Sukoso, who really runs regarding about all this, and maybe your PT. I know that for the import as well as export, you have two different agencies within Indonesia. So it would be good, the extent of what from today, we're talking about this global halal business, and I hope AMSI as the secretariat would actually go beyond and try to invite all these panel, to really bring about, and provide the several guidance. And I think this is a very, very important, because as we know, the moment that we want to be an entrepreneur in the trading and supply, import, export, the FTA, shipping, these are all very crucial. So my take is, whatever it is, we must be on top. The knowledge is really must be up here, so that it is something. This is what the message tonight. Thankful for your question, Brother Eko. Yeah.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Encik Zuraimi.
Most welcome,
Thank you,
Eko. Yeah.
Mas Eko. Okay, I will mute, and then for the next question, could you share a bit more about blockchain in halal trading guarantee? And then the second one is, how big the opportunity about halal in the current marketplace to grow in ASEAN?
Can you repeat the last two lines, please?
Okay. How big opportunity about halal ingredient marketplace to grow in ASEAN? The opportunity of halal ingredients.
I love that part of the question regarding about the raw ingredients within ASEAN is in fact a very, very huge potential, and I would love our startup, whoever you are, to really pay attention and try to go into this supply of raw ingredients, because today, as I mentioned over to you, with the advancement of the technology, right? I think the collaboration between this technology and the raw ingredient, I feel very much that I feel very much that Indonesia would be a leading supplier for the aspect of the raw ingredients to ASEAN and even to the whole entire global market. So don't waste this opportunity. Try to really do a lot more of the R&D in the part of the raw material, and try to take those opportunity. And what I think is a point of consideration about this raw ingredient is about the pricing. So you have to come up with your mechanism of the manufacturing and whatsoever, and try to remain and stay competitive and bring up the quality of your raw materials, and try whatever that I've presented right from the beginning, and try to follow all those kind of steps and make the standard quality, halalan, thayyiban, mubarakan, the safety aspect of your product, and especially from the raw ingredient. This is something that is a must if you really want to be a major supplier within ASEAN. Start within ASEAN, or start within Indonesia for that matter, and try to really go beyond ASEAN within the set of your timeline. Yeah. Thank you, Mira.
Thank you, Mrs. Yeah. And then this is one, Norma. She wants to say the question by herself. So,
Okay.
Assalamualaikum.
Yes. Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, Kak Mira. And hello, good evening, Encik Zuraimi.
Good evening, Norma.
Okay.
Carry on, please. Yeah.
Yes, please. Thank you. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Norma. I'm from a startup based in Bandung. We are called Halal Local. We are an application that helps Muslim travelers finding halal restaurants. But right now, originally we were thinking to go for B2C, but now we are more likely to head towards B2B, especially now with the coronavirus pandemic. It started to be quite tricky actually to catch the market. So I'd like to ask about particularly about the Tokyo Olympics that you mentioned about just now. So it's supposed to be held this year, isn't it, 2020, but it got suspended into next year, I believe, into July 2021. And I personally think that this Tokyo Olympic will be a good momentum for any businesses who is involved in halal industry to actually capture the moment and what do you call it, advertise about halal, what halal is about, yeah, and put our industry in the map. Now that you can say maybe there is like a bit of blessing behind the Tokyo Olympic being postponed.
Sure.
Is there anything that we should know about what's the demand out there in Japan that us maybe all startups or maybe small businesses, medium businesses, big businesses in halal industry out here in Southeast Asia, that we can actually fulfill that demand or use that opportunity? If you could have your insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kak Norma. I think it's a very good question that you pose. If from the point of business, I would want to encourage you. I mean, you are right, because I myself also run some halal business activity in Osaka, and we know that Tokyo is something that already been saturated, and the potential within Osaka as a kind of the port, to really designate as a kind of the halal goods. It is something that at that point in time, I think about last 2 years, Osaka is coming pretty aggressive in a way that to really secure the 2020 Olympic as well. Then I believe that what I feel, it is not only Osaka or Tokyo, there are even a few other, Hokkaido for that matter as well. Everybody is so eager about wanting to go into the halal economy, and we know that even there are many halal certification bodies in Japan, and I think that the government of Japan also realizes this. For that matter, when I was in the MUIS, Waris Halal, we also actually assisted one of the airport to be certified. Right now, coming back to the point that you raised, that the 2020 Olympic and now is to 2021. Now, if I am you, Norma, the strength that you possess, number one, right now you are already knowing about what is the halal ecosystem. You know what apparently the business within the halal. But I would want to encourage you to be right now the master for your own territory, that is Indonesia. Because as far as I know, when we talk about the halal in Japan, Japan would not want to welcome very much regarding about the products from outside of Japan into Japan. It's going to be very, very tough, right? We know this, and one of the way that only that if you are doing that in the form of a contract manufacturing, it has to be, Echo did mention regarding about the taste need to be really fit into the local taste of the Japanese, especially, right? Then subsequently, the food safety that is equally very high in Japan. But I would like to encourage that why not? You are already trying to actually go from Indonesia to Japan. Now, why not you bring Japan right now to Indonesia, and be the master within your site and try to bring the Japanese product, because a lot of the companies within the Japan would want to actually export into Indonesia. So if you would be able to do that, I think this, in my personal opinion, would be a very good niche. I personally, I think Mira mentioned that, I'm also the president director to Global Sensa Prima. Global Sensa Prima is something that, I've partnered with one of the Indonesian partner, and he does the distribution for Indonesia on my behalf. So, I bring a product from Turkey as well. So, halal product is something that, I think you guys, as I mentioned, that, the majority of the Muslim population within Indonesia, so you should be able to take this opportunity and try to emulate more distribution within your own country. Try to look in terms of your own retail chain, work with all the pesantren, and try to look on how you will be able to, because you know best, within your own territory. So the economic buying power right now within the Indonesia is something that good, and I think that I really like President Jokowi with Bapak Ma'ruf Amin right now, and he is as well is one of the main expert. I would say I met him last time before he actually been the a candidate that go along with Bapak Jokowi. So this, in my opinion, Norma, is huge potential for you. So why not you start something to really create a kind of a platform, work with your own channel distribution, try to get that to be empowered. So once you are strong within your own Indonesia, that definitely will allow people to come directly to you. So this is how my response over to you, Norma. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Encik.
Thank you,
Most
Mbak
welcome.
Norma. Is that answer your question?
Yes, that's good. Thank you, Kak.
Sudah ya. Okay, thank you. Okay, next question, Mr. Zuraimi from halal.id. Let me. Okay. The question is, could you share a bit more about blockchain in halal tracing guarantee? How to track the guarantee of the halal from the blockchain?
Okay, I'm not the expert within this part of the technology of blockchain. We have our partner, that is the one aggregates. But I know for one, if we even want to really master the blockchain and really want to do all the encryption and really wanting, FRID and whatever in terms of those technology, one thing that we need is actually to really maximize the volume of our halal products, right? So I think generally, if you look at the various platform or even the blockchain that we have within part of ASEAN, one of the main challenges is to really create the volume. So my take is, without volume, there's nothing much, in my personal opinion, that we will be able to be successful in terms of having this blockchain to really serve the halal supply chain. Right? Yeah. Thank you, Mira.
Thank you. I hope it's answer your question from halal.id. And is there any
but Mira,
yeah?
for the halal dot continue, and I think what is really needed to really work with the various if they are B2C or even they are B2B kind of a platform, I would want to really suggest that really widen the whole entire network. Try to go for those kind of a product that really have good size of volume, and I think that is one of the quick way that we can be very successful in terms of having that platform to serve the ASEAN community. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. We will wait for another question. Is there another question from the audience? You can raise your hand, or either way, you can type it in the comment section, column chat section. I will read your question right away to Mr. Zuraimi. Okay, there's one from Pak Doni. We'll unmute. Okay, Assalamualaikum Pak Doni.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi Doni.
Ya, Abang. Thank you
Apa khabar ya Doni? Masya Allah, subhanallah. Syukran jazilan. Terima kasih ya Doni.
So when you come to Jakarta, I will bring you to nasi Padang ya, Surya in Ben Hill. The most favorite.
Wow.
Is Padang.
I love I love nasi padang. You know, being myself a Bugis as well. You know, my wife is from Padang, so nasi padang is something that really is a must whenever that I'm in Jakarta. Yeah.
So when you come to Jakarta, I will bring you the most favorite Padang restaurant. It's there in close to my
Mashallah,
office
thank you.
in Ben Hill, Post area. Okay,
Wow, Donny. Yeah.
Bang, I want to asking you about the perspective about the halal ya, because now in Indonesia, especially Jakarta, when we talk about the halal, they can say, what is halal? When I go to Warteg and when I go to Padang, this is halal. Then when I go to KFC, because all in Indonesia's people thinking is halal is when we eat food, this is automatically is halal. But when we talk about the Arabic people, they can say you need to asking first, then you need to make sure what you eat, this is a real halal or not, right? What a different mind from my friend from Malaysia and Singapore. They have another perspective about the halal. Totally different what the Indonesian people think about halal. So the basic Indonesian people, not too much, not to all, yeah, but almost there, not clearly about the halal. What is the meaning for halal business, halal, everything about the halal. Sometimes they also confused about the Sharia. When we talk about the Sharia, they also confused. And we talk about halal, they also confused. So maybe you can give easy way
Sure.
to share to us what the meaning is halal. When there's somebody asking about what the halal food, what the halal business, what I'm doing now, halal or not? They will asking me about like that.
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe you can share your
Thank you,
some
Donny.
idea.
Thank you, Donny. I can only emulate and respond to your question based on my experience from Singapore. Yeah, but I'm just hoping that Donny, this would be something useful, right? Your question is not really too far from the kind of understanding of our Muslim community in Singapore, and especially for those people who are doing the business. Because I was then a trainer, to really conduct for the Muslim establishment certificate, on behalf of the Singapore Malay Chamber of Commerce. Yeah, so when we approach the Muslim community, I think when it comes to the point of halal, I think many, if not all, would be able to subscribe based on their own personal understanding that they will be doing that in the form of their personal responsibility. But I would want to segmentize your question to the point that to the Muslim business owner, right? In this case, in Singapore, I think for instance last year when we have this Bazaar Ramadan, right? For the very first time, it was actually empowered by the agency and the organizer that all the Bazaar Ramadan in Geylang must be halal certified. Then I said that to be halal certified, they be Muslim already. What is there the need to be halal, right? But it is not only regarding about the Sharia component of halal. We are talking about the supply, or rather the raw ingredient. Is actually it's a very very strict. I would say in Singapore, when I actually advise about 100 over food stalls for the Bazaar Ramadan. And within that short period of 2 weeks before that 1 month of the Bazaar Ramadan, we all will have to come together, get everybody to be in one page and telling them if you have your menu correct, and look at your raw ingredients, check at your supplier, ensure that all your suppliers are having the valid halal certificate, and we need to actually submit for the processes. But I would say, Donnie, is very tough. But at the end of the day, the sweet thing is when everybody, that we applied for this, and mind you, they are not from the the halal certified, but rather Muslim owner. Everybody understood at the end of the day that is about food safety. It is about making sure the hygiene of the perimeters. It is about how you conduct your business, right? In a kind of ethical way of providing this halal business to your consumer. You have to really take up the community responsibility and making sure that as the whole part of the ecosystem within that particular bazaar, it is something that really to the level of expectation that everybody are working towards achieving. Because what happened when I did that part of the application, I mean, these are all the Muslim brothers, right? So we cannot afford to have one stall that is what do you call that will not be successful. We have to make sure that everybody will be successful, and alhamdulillah, we were all been very successful. And last, I think to really go about in terms of your situation back there, I think you should start something by defining hygiene. By defining hygiene is about halal, defining about the work area, defining about the raw supply, should actually come from. So it will take a time, Donnie. It will take a time, but I believe it has to be a community approach. You guys will have to work with all the various halal ecosystem, the halal leaders within Indonesia, and hopefully one fine day, the point that we really expect of halalan thayyiban mubarakan would be something that clearly evident. We are all together within ASEAN and really grow this ecosystem together. And last but not least, if we are not educating our brothers and sisters today, what I'm afraid is doing business in the halal ecosystem, they will lose out if they are not well equipped or well knowledge in terms of doing the business in halal. But first, they have to start with their own personal responsibility. They have to start with their community responsibility the next, and hopefully by doing so, everybody will be able to help to increase the awareness, as how AMSI is doing tonight, inviting those interested participants, and here tonight we are sharing regarding about what it is to be on the aspect of the halalan thayyiban mubarakan. Thank you, Mira.
Thank you, Mr. Zuraimi. And Norma wants to say a bit more, so I will unmute her again. Let's see. Okay. Assalamualaikum.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Norma.
Halo, Encik. Nggak apa ya? Is it okay if I ask again?
Yeah. Carry on, Norma.
My question now is a bit more into like the current condition, Cik. So right now we are in this middle of worldwide issue about the coronavirus pandemics, and especially like Singapore is also one of the epicenter. I mean, like the whole world is looking at Singapore as well, including us as well. We want to learn the most from Singapore, and my question would be, how would this affect the halal industry during this corona pandemics, and how should we take it from there?
Yeah. First and foremost, Norma, to really answer to your question, in the aspect of facing this pandemic crisis, right? We should put away whether we are halal or not halal, because everyone, regardless of who we are, all of us are equally affected. And I think why I say it's pretty important, I think, as I stress, this is the moment that we really have to embrace unity, right? While what my worry, right? Everyone, I mean, within ASEAN, I think there's really the growing concern of food supply disruption, right? Because we know that during all this lockdown, the port, the runway, even for Singapore, for us, but our government is something that we really appreciate, because they have a very good forecast, and I think thus far all the relevant countries that I see today are doing to their level best, including Indonesia for that matter, and I really appreciate that. But in the aspect of the food supply chain, what will worry me is, we have about 40% of our Muslim community within ASEAN, right? This is where I think within the ASEAN countries itself, we really have to work together and making sure that, whatever that need for whoever, within the part of the Muslim countries, wherever we are, it is something that we will need to help one another. And this is going to be my very quick response, Nurma, as far as we want that this COVID-19 will be over, and we will be able to be back on our own feet, and business will be going, and really to take stock, reflect, and hopefully, I mean, there are good, ample opportunity. There are going to be good, ample learning point from this COVID, and I think this is something that we all need to appreciate. Without this COVID-19 in the first place, we were all not going to be in the kind of a situation, but we see that everyone equally concerned, which I think this is a very, very positive sign. But I would love to look, as I mentioned, that for our these Muslim startup entrepreneurs in Indonesia to also look at the aftermath of this COVID-19. When we mentioned about the shortage of this food supply, I would love to see more of the millennials from the Muslim startup also to really look in terms of going into the agriculture sector within your Indonesia. Because to me, you have that resources, you have to work hard, you really have to build that ecosystem, and you need to start, bringing in the right team, the right set of mind, aspire with the kind of, one vision, and start small is okay, but try to your level best. And when you mentioned the first part of question, Nurma, you really over to Japan, to really looking beyond, right? But do also create that importance to really bring about your other colleague, and try to embrace everyone to put a lot of importance to this agriculture opportunity, as one of the questions that relate the aspect of the raw materials. And I think this is the big potential Indonesia has, and it has to start from you guys to really bring out. And whatever it takes, Norma, don't forget Singapore. I mean, Singapore are more than willing to be your partners.
Thank you very much.
Take us kind of the trading hub gate to really work together and explore the global market when the time is right. Yeah. Thank you, Norma.
Thank you very much, Encik, for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Kak Norma. Okay. I think the time is already over because it's already 9 past 10. And for those brothers and sisters who haven't had time to ask or still have another question, you can email it to AMSI secretariat@muslimstartup.id. I already put it in the comment section. So, and we'll pass your question to Mr. Zuraimi directly. Before we end this session, and any last word you want to say, Mr. Zuraimi, or we just end it right now?
Last but not least, Mira, my profuse thankful from the bottom of my heart. Whenever that we congregate ourselves and to really instill the passion, to really muzakara in the area of this protecting halal, tayyib as well as mubarakan. May Allah Subhanahu wa Taala give us the bountiful blessing based on our sincerity. Discussing this and my profuse dua to each and everyone in this particular webinar that we will be successful despite the COVID-19. We have to really be brave. We need to also be tactful, look after our family, right? Instill in ourselves that we want to be successful. Not because only for ourselves, but look around for our own family. And my last departing to all members, to be successful, I want you guys, to really look upon your parents, your mom, your dad, if you have. If those, then at least, with the kind of dua to all of them. But if we are still having a parents, please, fulfill our duties, because we will never be able to be successful without the blessing from our parents. So I think this is something that,
Yes.
My end, and I wish each and every one of us within this webinar to be very, very successful. And thank you to you, Mira Talib, for hosting this in a very competent, and I think I love this session very much. And thank you to Donnie, for reaching me out in LinkedIn. Yeah, and thank you very much to all those who have asked me several questions. And I think it's also a point of learning for myself. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you very much for sharing with us, Mrs. Zuraimi, and thank you for your for you to taking out of time for your busy schedule, and it is such an eye-opening for us. Thank you very much, Mrs. Zuraimi. And let's end this session with hamdalah, alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. And we hope that you achieve what you came here to achieve, and we look forward to seeing you guys at next session, which is tomorrow, and the other section, don't forget it, until 19 April, every 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. Stay tuned, guys, and see you again tomorrow. There's two expert, which is Aan Setianto, my CEO from PT Fascom Solusi Teknologi, on how to build startup team efficiently, and then from Jacob Win, which is he's a docent from Unikama, dan beliau akan membawakan tentang unicorn team mindset. Saya sebagai MC pada hari ini mohon undur diri. Terima kasih semuanya, dan wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sampai jumpa di next session. Terima kasih.